So how important is sleep in terms of recovery?
I think sleep, if you want my number one favorite topic at the moment, it's sleep. And because it underpins everything. I mean, from performance to recovery to well-being to longevity to general health, sleep is probably the thing that we need to get right. So it is the most important thing in my, what I call my product recovery stack. And if we don't get sleep right, we don't get recovery right, we don't get performance right. So everything I do in terms of recovery comes back to making sure that we get sleep right.
How many hours of sleep in a day is necessary according to you? REM sleep, I would say.
Depends who the individual is and what age they are, but predominantly for my athlete cohort at the elite level, 8 is still the magic number, 8 hours.
8 hours.
Of which we want to see a significant proportion of that, at least 30% of that being deep sleep, because that's where the physical recovery takes place. But then I need to see a fairly high proportion, but 25 and 30% of that is REM sleep as well for cognitive recovery. So it's not just the volume of sleep, it's also how much is REM, how much is deep, and then also how effective is that sleep. How is it positively impacting their heart rate variability and therefore the overall recovery of that individual. So yes, it's time is important, but quality is more important.
Also, any supplements that you recommend for good sleep?
So it's more about, there's a combination of what goes in and what goes out, because there are certain things that go into you that will impact sleep and make sleep of a poorer quality. So if you're having a high carbohydrate, high sugar based diet before you sleep, then that is going to impact sleep performance negatively. So that's one thing. So it's taking things away that's important to get good sleep and then adding things in. And the most effective that we found at the moment for good sleep is obviously magnesium, particularly glycinate. Various dosages, but sort of between 200 and 400 milligrams about 2 hours before sleep time. We're finding really effective for recovery for our athletes and improving their sleep quality. But that is only as good as the things that you do before you go to bed. Like I said, what you're eating before you go to bed. What time do you eat before you sleep? Because all of that negatively impacts on your sleep duration as well as your sleep quality.
But don't you believe that a high carb diet will spike the insulin, which helps in sleep, which increases the sleep?
No, has the opposite effect.
All right.
Because it's excitatory, okay? Because that's glucose. So you'll find that people who have a large glycemic or high glycemic meal before they sleep, you'll find that their resting heart rates will actually be slightly higher. Okay, between 3 and 5 beats, certainly in the athlete cohort, which means they're in excitatory mode. Okay, we want to try and dampen that down as much as possible. And then also, if you're taking on all that fuel and all that energy and then going to bed, the body can only do one thing with it, and that's store it. It has to. It uses insulin. Insulin's, when it was first discovered, insulin was called the fat-storing hormone. Okay, so it's actually a hormone that's responsible for storing fat. So then what happens is if you're not using that fuel as energy, then the body has to convert it and store it in your adipose tissue. So so that's why you wouldn't take on a high glycemic or a high carbohydrate meal before. One, because it does impact on sleep performance, and two, it also promotes weight gain if you're sensitive to carbohydrates.
So how much time before?
And also insulin's inflammatory. Remember that high doses of insulin over longer periods of time is quite inflammatory. Inflammation sits at the sort of source of most disease. And when we're talking about recovery, the thing we want to try and do in order to recover better is to dampen inflammation down. We know that sugars are very inflammatory. Glucose, carbohydrates are very inflammatory. We don't want that as part of our recovery protocol.
So how much time before should we take a meal if we are going to sleep?
Ideally, for most people, it's you don't want to have a meal between 2 and 3 hours before you sleep. So if you normally go to bed at say 10:30, then you probably want to be finished eating by about 8 o'clock. Okay.
All right.
So ideally 2.5 to 3 hours beforehand, and so you get a good gut emptying. Okay. and you've had a chance for your body to utilize particularly the carbohydrate that's in the system. And what even makes sleep even more effective is to go for a 10 to 15 minute walk after your meal. Also really, really helps as well.
All right.